Welcome to Lesson 22.4, Flowering Plants. In this lesson, we'll identify the reproductive structures of angiosperms and identify some of the ways angiosperms can be categorized. Flowering plants, or angiosperms, first appeared during the Cretaceous period, about 135 million years ago, making their origin the most recent of all plant phyla. Flowering plants originated on land and soon came to dominate Earth's plant life. Today, angiosperms make up the vast majority of plant species. What are the key features of angiosperm reproduction? Angiosperms reproduce sexually by means of flowers. After fertilization, ovaries within flowers develop into fruits that surround, protect, and help disperse the seeds. Angiosperms develop unique reproductive organs known as flowers. Flowers contain ovaries which surround and protect the seeds. The presence of an ovary gives angiosperms their name, angiosperm, which means enclosed seed. In general, flowers are an evolutionary advantage to plants because they attract animals such as bees, moths, and hummingbirds. These animals, drawn by the color, scent, or even the shape of the flower, carry pollen with them as they leave. Because these animals go directly from flower to flower, they can carry pollen to the next flower they visit. This means of pollination is much more efficient than the wind pollination of most gymnosperms. After pollination, the ovary develops into a fruit. The angiosperm fruit is a structure containing one or more matured ovaries. The wall of the fruits help disperse the seeds inside it, carrying them away from the parent plant. The great diversity of angiosperms has made them especially difficult to classify in the scientific sense. For many years, flowering plants were classified according to the number of seed leaves, or cotyledons, in their embryos. Those with one seed leaf were called monocots. Those with two seed leaves were called dicots. At one time, these two groups were considered classes within the angiosperm phylum, and all angiosperms were placed in one class or the other. More recent studies of plant genomes and new fossil discoveries have shown that things are actually a little more complicated than that. In 2002, an extraordinary plant fossil was discovered in northeastern China. Giving the name Archaea fructus, which means ancient fruit, this organism is the oldest known plant with reproductive organs like those found in modern flowers. It is more ancient than modern-day monocots and dicots and can't be classified as either. Other recent evidence suggests that Ambrella, a plant found only on the Pacific island of New Caledonia, belongs to still another ancient lineage of plants. Information gained from the Ambrella discovery led scientists to place other plants, such as the water lily, near the base of the angiosperm evolution. The illustration shown summarizes one modern view of angiosperm classification. Scientific classification now places the monocots into a single group. This classification places the dicots in a variety of distinct categories. This means that the term dicot is no longer used for classification. It can, however, still be used to describe many of the characteristics of the plant structure. Systems of classification change as new evidence is discovered. Scientists are still working out the relationships among the categories here. Biologists group organisms based on their evolutionary history, not just physical similarities. While scientific classification best reflects the evolutionary relationships among flowering plants, many people who work with plants, gardeners, farmers, and foresters, tend to categorize angiosperms using more convenient methods. Angiosperms are often grouped according to the number of their seed leaves, the strength and composition of their stems, and the number of growing seasons they live. These categories can overlap. An iris, for example, is a non-woody plant. It has a single seed leaf, and it may live for many years. Angiosperms may be termed monocots or dicots based on the number of seed leaves or cotyledons they produce. Although we no longer classify both as scientific groups, the term is still useful. Monocots and dicots differ in characteristics such as the distribution of vascular tissue in stems, roots, and leaves, and the number of petals per flower. Monocots include plants such as corn, wheat, lilies, orchids, and palms. Monocot grasses, especially wheat, corn, and rice, have the important distinction of being the first plants to be cultivated in mass quantities for food. Dicots include roses, clover, tomatoes, oaks, and daisies. Which type of plant has two cotyledons? Dicots. If the veins in the leaves of an unknown plant are parallel, what do you know about this plant? It is a monocot. What is the difference in stem structure between monocots and dicots? Monocots have vascular bundles scattered throughout the stems. Dicots have vascular bundles arranged in a ring. How do the flowers of monocots and dicots typically differ? Monocot flowers often have floral parts in multiples of 3. Dicots often have floral parts in multiples of 4 or 5. Flowering plants can also be subdivided into groups according to the characteristics of their stems. One of the most important and noticeable stem characteristic is woodiness. Woody plants are made primarily of cells with thick cell walls that support the plant body. Woody plants include trees, shrubs, and vines. Shrubs are typically smaller than trees, and vines have stems that are long and flexible. Stems that are smooth and non-woody are characteristic of herbaceous plants. Herbaceous plants do not produce wood as they grow. Examples of herbaceous plants are dandelions, zinnias, petunias, and sunflowers. If you've ever planted a garden, you know that many flowering plants grow, flower, and die in a single year, while other types of plants continue to grow from year to year. The lifespan of plants is determined by a combination of genetic and environmental factors. Many long-lived plants continually grow despite yearly environmental fluctuations. However, harsh environmental conditions can shorten the lifespan of other plants. The 3 categories of plant lifespans are annual, biennial, and perennial. Which flowering plant completes its life cycle in 1 year? Those are annuals. Which flowering plant completes its life cycle in 2 years? Those are biennials. And which flowering plant lives year after year? Those are perennials. Angiosperms reproduce sexually by means of flowers. After fertilization, ovaries within flowers develop into fruits that surround, protect, and help disperse the seeds. Angiosperms are often grouped according to the number of their seed leaves and the strength and composition of their stems. Angiosperms are also often grouped according to the number of growing seasons they live.